every tax cut, every tax increase is different. Let me give you some example from history. This was the Bush tax cuts, 2001 and 2011. Look what happened here. Employment grew very slowly here, and real GDP grew just less than 3%. So this is kind of a mixed response to a tax cut from President Bush. But what about President Clinton? He was raising taxes. He was raising taxes, and employment surged, and so did GDP. So what's the difference there when you look at those two? Well, tax policy is just one lever in, frankly, hundreds of things in fiscal and economic policy that can affect the economy. George W. Bush, he was cutting taxes to boost growth. He had two big wars, spending on wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the national debt was growing because of that. But Bill Clinton, he was raising taxes to reduce the deficit. Remember those days of balanced budgets? There was a dot-com boom, business was surging, a PC on every desk, and NAFTA and the WTO, the U.S. entered into those big trade deals. So very different situation there. Now, this is what Republicans, this is what conservatives and budget wonks, this is the holy grail. This is when they say you cut taxes, it explodes the economy. They look at Reagan and what happened in the Reagan years. Ronald Reagan, coming out of tough economic times, cut taxes. And look, you started to see the economy with a little blip here doing better. And then he embarked on not just tax cuts, but tax reform. And that's what's so important here, not just cutting taxes and exploding the deficit, but reforming taxes. And look at what happened. You got 7% growth here, multiple years above 3%. This is what people want when they talk about cutting taxes. But when you cut taxes and you reform taxes and you explode the deficit, that's a whole nother story. Very hard to say that just exploding it on its own in terms of tax cuts and growing growth can make sure the deficit doesn't get bigger too.